Would you please welcome to Dealcasters.live the chief technologist of Hicks New Media. I call him the good doctor, James Hicks. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Come on now. Oh, my goodness. Mama, I hope Mama's watching because your son done made it. Man, I'm over here hanging with the Dealcasters. Where we at? We Amazon. We're YouTube. We're on the Facebook.
Are we on Twitter, Chris? I think. Did we make it to Twitter
a couple
today?
of Twitters. Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah,
Twitch?
yeah.
Are we on Twitch?
Are
we twitching?
Ladies and gentlemen, we are global.
That's right. You know, James, I just,
Yes,
I gotta tell you, man,
Come on.
I can't believe we've waited this long to have you on the show, to be honest.
Well,
it's like one of those things where Jim was on your show, and then I was on your show, and we're just kind of chopping it up on your show, and you just kind of said, "Man, what's a man got to do to get an invite on your show?" And I was like, "Oh my God, how have we not had you on our show?" But it was an honor to even hear that, my friend, because I've been a fan.
whose yard I got to cut, whose pool I got to clean.
Well, just remember who sent you the invite.
Wow.
There it is, right there, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna leave that alone because we're not gonna have any infighting amongst the Dealcasters while I'm here.
But man, you've got a
I'm
great first name. I mean, I think you got
there it is, brother.
The Jays have it right.
But you disowned it. Like you said, I don't want to be James.
Because then
Jim.
people would get confused, right? So I told James I'd take Jim. He could have James.
There you go. Free merch coming your way, sir. I tell you what, I may send you a little code tonight just to pay off, a little payola for that. No.
Yep.
But I mistake James.
I'm excited though.
Go ahead, Jim.
No, I'm excited that going to get to hang out with James at Creator Camp.
Yeah, man.
In the world of e-camera, because when you look at this, the way this show looks right now. This is all the workings of Chris Stone, James. And so you see the hills I got to climb to try to keep up with this young man. So I got to go to camp and train so that I can, attempt to even get a fraction towards the skill level of Chris Stone of Cast Ahead.
Hey, you'll be learning from the best. I understand they got a cast of just dynamic presenters, speakers, instructors lined up for that. I'm gonna be there just to heckle from the back of the classroom, and then
I'm gonna bring my Insta360 so we can capture it all.
Me too. There you go. I plan to drink adult beverage with Kid and Glenn. I don't know. Nice. Can I say scotch on this? Oh, well, it's too late. I've already said it.
You already did.
It's already done. We appreciate you, Richard. Shout out to Richard in the chat on Amazon, giving us a shout out for a follow. And that reminds me, if you're watching over on Amazon, it's free to follow us. And if you follow us, a Blue Yeti gets its wings. And we promise you, I guess the only thing we could do is maybe play a little, let's do this. No, that's not it. I was going to play a little chime about a Blue Yeti getting its wings, but I digress. James, let's talk about you, man. This is what the people are here to hear about James Hicks. And I tell you what, the day I tuned in to, I don't know what show it was, but it was a round table, and there was Janaid, Rob Balasabas, all the legends, right, in terms of live selling. And there's this guy with this focused hat in the middle of it, said James in the corner. And I was really taken aback about how good of a host, the skills that you had as a host in the middle of all of these content creators that, you know how it is sometimes. Some people, they like to talk a lot, but you were herding the cats and you were taking this conversation and really catapulting it. And as someone who myself studies the art and wants to continue to get better and to continue to do this for a long period of time and not just hang out and talk, but really to deliver value to the audience, I really appreciated that. And I saw that and I was like, okay, what is it about this guy? And I started down that rabbit hole of Hicks New Media, and I realized, man, you're hosting a ton of shows. You're bringing a lot of people on the show, but like, what is this guy about? Like, what's his story? Like, where did you come from? And how did you get to that point and develop those skills to where you're at. I'd love to hear that, because just for my own selfish reasons, and hopefully the audience as well, it gives them an idea of where you came from to where you're at now.
Man, listen, first and foremost, I appreciate you. I appreciate both of you for the invite to be here hanging out with you and your community, breaking bread, fellowshipping with you guys. I have been, what you just said means you get it, right? In terms of what my goal is, what my focus is. My focus is to stay focused on you, and to have the individuals or the organizations, the people that come on to any of my streams, any of my sessions, really have the camera really turned on them, right? I'm just here to facilitate. I'm here to be the Wizard of Oz behind the scenes, pulling the ropes and things of that nature. But everyone has a story to tell, regardless of if it's a professional conversation, regardless of if it's a personal conversation, of a motivation, a how-to, anything of that nature. We can always find some commonality in that. And as long as we are truthful with each other, as long as we allow ourselves to debate, as long as we allow ourselves to have those heartfelt conversations, we can find common ground and we can be respectful. So regardless, again, of what the subject matter is, it could be a political conversation, it could be a business conversation, it could be whatever the case may be. And the show that you were particularly talking about was my session, The Digital Collective, yes, where I bring in and we talk about technology, we talk about products, hardware, services, things of that nature, right? We've got folks coming in on that show that were, I'll say, some competitors, the StreamYard users, that were Restream users, that were Ecamm users, and just using all the different things. But we found commonality. And again, we found respect in terms of, what are you doing to do what it is that you do? And maybe I can take a nugget of that information back to my workflow and learn from it. That's the beauty. That's rising above the noise, right? Because we can be out here on all these social networks and there's a ton of noise. But if you rise above that, and you said the word, bring value to the community, you're going to have the longevity. You're going to have that advisor status. You're going to have that subject matter expert status as well. And you're going to be more of an advocate as opposed to an influencer. I'm really key on that as well. So again, that's the goal. Right. And if you see that, then that means I'm doing something right. And I'm gonna keep on trying to do it, brother.
And that's a really great point you bring up. And Chris and I actually just had this conversation. Maybe you were bugging our rooms, but that's okay.
I do that.
That we do need to sometimes have these conversations where it doesn't always have to be like, oh yeah, I completely agree with you 100%. There needs to be what I call, and what you're calling that, like that healthy, respectful debate. It's something that we seem to have lost in this country of late, not wanting to get too political. But, because it's funny, right? Even when you see the folks that pick different streaming platforms, like, oh, my platform's best. Oh, no, mine's the best. It's like, they all have their pros and cons, right?
Yes.
And it was funny. I was telling Chris the other day in this Toastmasters Facebook group, this person was asking like, well, what are the programs that you use on Zoom? And I said, Ecamm. Right. And then he's like, well, I use OBS. Why do you use Ecamm? And I think Chris got a chuckle out of it. My response to him was customer service. Right?
Yeah.
Because you can
true,
do
man.
all this free stuff and try to figure it out yourself. But when there's no one to turn to, I don't have time for that. And knowing that you used to work for this company that we're all very familiar with, and probably I know I'm a fanboy of Apple. They're all about that, and I know Doc talks about how he was the genius there in Hawaii, but you were like the genius up north,
yeah,
right?
Up here in Northern California. Did I ever tell you about my infamous one-on-one with Mr. Jobs himself? Did I ever tell you that story?
You told me, but why don't you tell our
Oh my goodness. All right, sit down for story time, everyone.
Right,
so
here we go.
You got some soft music to play. So I used to he probably does. I used to run the implementation department for the Power School division, which was student information services when Apple was heavy into education. Power School, think digital progress reports, digital reporting, digital state reporting, and things of that nature. Back in our day, right, we'd get the paper progress reports and report cards, and we can fake the grade. We can change a D to a B, but when it's all digital, you can't do that. That's what Power School did. I took my team from Northern California down to Infinite Loop, down to headquarters, gave them the tour, gave them everything, right? Free lunch in the cafeteria, shopping at the on-site Apple store and all that. As we were walking out of the building, Steve was walking in. I didn't see him. I'm 6 foot. Steve was a little bit less than 6 feet. And the urban legend is, or urban story is, that if you were ever in an elevator with Steve Jobs and he asked you what you did for the company, there's always a chance that he may say, by the time you get down to the bottom floor, that you no longer work for the company. So keep that in perspective. Again, as I'm walking out the building, he's walking in. I don't see him. I damn near knocked the guy down. Literally falls down. He buckles and he almost hits the ground. But I reached over, grab him, help pick him up. I'm sweating, but we look at each other. I give him my customary finger point and like, dude, you all right? We have a little quick exchange. Hello, thank you, appreciate you. Sorry about that. And I didn't get fired, but that is my impromptu, unofficial one-on-one with Steve Jobs that I'm going to hold for forever. And that interaction is something that again, I'm glad it didn't turn out bad for me. I'm glad it worked out for the best. But yeah, he is definitely one of those insane geniuses in the world that he's like the Richard Bransons, the Jeff Bezos, the Elon Musk, those kinds of folks. We need those kinds of folks. And just for me to be able to work for that company for over a decade, for me to be able to have that one engagement and interaction with him really made me a part of the cult of Mac for forever.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's just amazing you didn't get fired after that, man.
Me too. Let me tell you something. I waited to see by the time I got home from that drive to see if my email still worked. And hey,
how long were you nervous, James? Was it like?
I'm still nervous.
You're still nervous.
That made me nervous to hear it.
It's still nervous. That was just not a good thing, right? But went to his house, drove by it. Hold on, let me set every precedence here. It's not like I've been invited to inside Jobs' house, but I drove by his house, unfortunately, after he passed away, just to kind of show some homage. But yeah, so being in Silicon Valley, being so close to Silicon Valley, I had that capability. I gave HP 20 years of my life as well. So I've been to the garage. I've been to a lot of these locations that are landmarks for what it is that we do today, from either enterprise technology or even consumer technology. So being at Twitter, being at HP, being at Google, being at Apple, being at those locations and on campus, it really makes you appreciate what we use on a daily basis, right? We're utilizing these services, products, hardware, software, whatever the case may be, but to be in the building, be in the room and talking to some of the folks that are actually making those products, it's pretty cool. It makes you really pause and respect and appreciate the talent of the engineers behind the scenes. So I talk a lot.
No, this is why you're on the show, man.
Here.
And I think again, I'm going to get selfish. And so but I also know the audience, right? It's like, okay, if you're walking into Google and you're sitting down and you're dealing with people, because like a lot of people don't know some of the other things that you're doing currently, right?
Yeah.
But going into the offices of Twitter, going into these particular offices, and you intimated like, hey, seeing how these people are doing. What are some of the things that you've learned by being in some of these offices, whether it's dealing with Apple or Microsoft or any of these other things? What are some of the things that they've done that you've implemented in Hicks New Media and what you're doing today?
That technology should be respected and not ignored. And the advancements of technology are coming far faster than the consumer ever could have expected. So think AI. We've seen this before. We've known this already. Those that are in the enterprise technology space, this is nothing new to us. It now just has a pretty name, ChatGPT. It now has a pretty name, perspective.ai, right? Generative AI and things of that nature. But we've seen this evolution happening a few years ahead of time. Now it's on TV. Now it's on the CNBCs of the world. Now it's on the CNNs of the world. So the consumer is seeing the power of this technology and how it can hurt, harm, infiltrate what we do on a day-to-day basis. So it has to be respected. right? You have to understand how to, I'm not going to get on here and say, right, there needs to be any types of regulations, there need to be any types of whatever. But again, be careful what you wish for sometimes, because it's here. It's not coming. It's here. And we do have to be respectful of the technology and use it for its most effective good, right? So really see that things like this, generative AI, artificial intelligence, chat GPTs and things of that nature, there is more benefit. There's more pros than cons of this, as long as we have, again, that conscious effort in terms of how it's deployed and how it's implemented. So that's what I see from the folks that are behind the scenes. They know what they're doing in terms of creating workflows and processes and systems and platforms, things of that make our lives easier. It's just they're cognizant that there could be that negative and that dark, that downside to it as well. And that's a real tough place to be, right? When you're a coder, when you're a developer, you know the power of what it is that you've developed. And that could be a scary thing, as long as it's done and implemented and used the right way. Then, then there's the desire and to keep going, as opposed to stopping and saying, I'm only going to make it up to this point. Right.
Yeah.
Because it may be used for something negative, but, just be respectful of the technology that we have and use it for more good than bad.
So from the developer standpoint, there's that. But as a content creator, which you also are, and a very good one, I might add, make sure you're going to hicksnewmedia.com and following at James Hicks, because he is a tremendous follow on all the platforms. But as a content creator yourself, how do you sort of mitigate that world of AI and human, and being able to, like you said, don't be afraid of it, lean into it, start utilizing it, and also at the same time keeping yourself, that balance, to make sure that you're not putting out something that doesn't feel like it is yourself? Like, what's your mindset in not just yourself, but the other content creators that you're working with?
A lot of these tools today, again, so now the next evolution is this generative AI type of feel and type of utilization. So from a content creator perspective, we'll do something like this: long-term, long-form content, 30 minutes long, 60 minutes long. And one of the harder parts for me is chopping it up, right? Doing the editing, making the micro content and pushing it out to the individual platforms and things of that nature. So if there is something out there, a tool, process, a workflow that I can add into my day-to-day activities that streamlines that, I'm going to take a look at it. Now, I'm not just going to go into it blindly. I'm going to give it the parameters. I'm going to give it the data, give it the information, and then still go back with my human eye just to make sure that it has my personality in the context that is put out. It has my branding. It has my look and feel in terms of, you can tell that it was being generated by an algorithm. But if there is something that can knock off from 5 hours down to an hour and a half in terms of, again, the workflow of pushing out content and information to the community, I'm definitely going to be very interested in that and find a way to take advantage of that, to be honest with you. But again, don't just blindly utilize these tools and give them access to your Google account or your iCloud account and then have them automatically go out there as bots. Right? Because a lot of times we'll download an app, or we'll start using the platform and opt into whatever and not actually read the context of what that opt-in is. And if you don't do that, you almost blindly give access to your information and your data to those particular software pieces or those platforms. And you got to really be careful in terms of, again, how you utilize it. So be respectful, be careful. I use it kind of as a framework and as a foundation. And then I'll go in again, I'll add a little James Hicks flair to anything that goes out before I actually push it out to the public.
Yeah, speaking of that too, I think I just read the other day in a group somewhere that as much as everyone talks about the issues with TikTok but CapCut, owned by the same company,
yes, sir.
In the fine print, I believe you're giving them the ability to have your content. And so now it's like, oh, do I want to use this tool? If they can take my videos and do what they want with it because I put it into their program, it's like, maybe I'll take a step back and find something else that, might take me a little longer. But to your point, I mean, I just went through a document that I got to send to Chris. Is 100 different AI tools.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I'm looking at some of this, is like, it's mind blowing. You can do stuff like, we could take a picture of you and you could turn it into all these different profile photos, right? That make you look, you know, better than you are, which is hard to believe that AI can do that.
I'm gonna need that.
And
I'm gonna need that for
yeah,
sure. So
can
send
you
that one
send
to
me
me.
the URL,
yeah,
Jim? I need it.
I'll be sending you URL, and I don't even have an affiliate link for that, unfortunately. But yeah, it's a crazy stuff like that that's going out there. And I think, right, you kind of hear that whole thing of like, oh, this is the worst thing ever. But I like what you said, right? Hey, if I can do something in 20% of the time, that allows me to do other things that are more important. And I think the other thing that people miss on, and I think Chris and I think more so because you've kind of been around this tech space for a long time, right? We've gotten into this later in life.
Mm.
We've been learning these new skills, and I think that I feel like sometimes there's this mindset like, well, I became a copywriter, that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And heaven forbid somebody try to take my job away from me, right? It's like you've got to be constantly learning, evolving, and we all need to do that if we're going to continue to, fulfill just the things that we can do to make it a better world. And so I think, there's still a lot of things that we haven't even figured out are going to need to be done as people get
Yeah.
older and things of that nature, as opposed to, well, oh my gosh, this stuff's going to write everything for me. But if it doesn't have your voice, it's gonna be like, well, I know that's not really Chris Stone. That's just some robot spitting out
That's just
words.
an algorithm out there, right? And piggybacking on what you just said, that time frame of staying aware of what's now and what's next, right? We're not saying you got to have a crystal ball, but that
Mhm.
ability to know what's now and what's coming and just have some thought about it, actually think about it, as opposed to just being content and lackadaisical in terms of how you are a member of society. That's shrinking, right? In
Mhm.
technology, long term is really 12, 16 to 18 months. That's the long term when it comes to technology. And we're starting to see that shrink now as we start talking about, again, these tools, these platforms, these automated processes that are out there, to all within good faith, to streamline our workflows and to make somewhat of a more simpler life, or more effective usage of time. Let me put it that way: more of effective usage of our time. But what's next, right? Yesterday we were talking
Mhm.
about AI. Today we're talking about generative AI, which is a different twist on that already. What's next? What are we going to be talking about next, right? Are we talking about taking capabilities from data centers up into the cloud, and from the cloud down into the data center? So again, I'm putting my enterprise enterprise technology hat on, but
Come
that's
on.
where it's at. That's where the Googles, the Apples, the Metas are talking about right now. Right? How do we make those applications on our phone more intuitive in terms of our needs? Not necessarily targeted advertising, but
Mhm.
Right.
when you want to buy something, maybe Amazon knows that you ran out of toilet paper. I don't know. I don't know why I thought of toilet paper, but I
Hey,
just thought of toilet, right? But again, Amazon knows it. You got your
it's a
phone with
thing.
you or whatever, right? So it sends you a notification. These are just off the top of the dome right now. But again, making them more personable, making them more relatable, making it faster, making
Mhm.
it more customized as well. So I really think those are the kinds of things that folks need to start being aware of.
You slip by something, and
I slipped by
you
the
know,
toilet paper. I don't know
yeah.
what
Well,
else.
no, no.
It's stuck on his
You're
shoe.
taking the stream into the toilet, James. Congratulations. But you talked about AI and generative AI and talking
Yeah.
about the differences, and that's coming. Can you break that down for our folks and kind of let's talk to Chris Stone like a 9-year-old, like I'm a 9-year-old, and tell me the difference between AI and generative AI.
My definition is this. So here's a 35,000 foot level. So artificial intelligence is really more, from my definition, more from a manufacturing and more from an industrial perspective,
Okay.
right? It's more how I could utilize computers, algorithms, infrastructure to do X, Y, and Z faster and cheaper. So
Okay.
think Elon Musk out here building robots to now go out there and build the cars. That's the artificial intelligence, and then the computers learning how to streamline that process, how to make that 10 seconds faster, a little bit cheaper. If I did this before I did that, right? And then having that understanding and having that mathematical equation running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's the artificial intelligence piece, right? You feed it with some information and it continues to build on itself. And it says, I can do this process, this much better if I did that. Generative AI is the thought of introducing information and extrapolating something from that information. So again, back to the content creator perspective, 30-minute, 60-minute live stream, I put that into a tool like Opus Pro or CrossClip or Descript, things of that nature, and say, chop that up, right? And it will automatically auto-reframe it. It'll automatically put captions on it. It'll automatically add music to it.
Deep fake your voice.
Well, it can do that. Well, Descript does that, right?
I know.
Descript.
It's crazy.
That's the scariest thing. Listen, it's too good.
Yeah.
You read one paragraph into Descript and it just can come up with every single word in it. Y'all check out Descript. It's the truth.
Jeff C. called me one time. You guys know Jeff C., obviously. Another fantastic, full-bearded content creator. Called me one time, and his voice was something he had generated in Descript. And it was him talking to me. Like when that whole overdub process for Descript came out, he decided to, because I was like, what are you talking about? And all of a sudden I got this voicemail from Jeff C. and it really wasn't him. He got to the end and he goes, hey, it's me. And I was like, oh my God, that's too weird and too good. But I mean, that's so let me rewind this back a little bit, because, our audience, there's a lot of entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, people that, may treat this more as a side hustle, side job, and so they're like, okay, we know AI is coming, or it's here, right? Or has always been here, and now it's just, shiny object, right? And they want to do this stuff. But like to Jim's point, here's a list of 100,000 new AI things, or people just slapping the word AI on something, right?
Yep.
Like where, like, and this is really what I get a lot of. And honestly, James, I don't have an answer yet, because it's like drinking water out of a fire hose right now, the way this stuff is coming out. And everybody's like, look at this, look at this, look at this. And you're like, I can't check out 120 pieces of software in 10 minutes. I only have like 1 hour a day that I can devote to this. And, you've got really great points about saying, hey, I can use this stuff to cut my day from content creation from 2 hours down to 25 minutes or something like that. What are some of the things that people should think about maybe first in your experience? Is it Descript? Is it, hey, take this mindset if you're a podcaster or if you're a live streamer, take this mindset. Here's a couple of tools that you might want to utilize.
So I'm going to flip it, right? Because that's an excellent question. And for us to be, the three of us to be subject matter experts, to be trusted advisors when talking to individuals and coaching and things of that nature, we really have to change the conversation from products. Like, let's not talk Sony. Let's not talk Descript. Let's not talk Rode and Shure, right? Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about what is it you're trying to do? And why is it that you're trying to do it? And who are you trying to reach? That starts right there. Those three questions start whittling down that list of 10,000 websites down to 100, right? What are you trying to do? What's the message? What's the community that and the audience that you're trying to reach with a specific conversation? You identify that. You identify your short, mid, long-term goals. Understand where you are today and where you're trying to go, right? And then we can start talking about, let's look into this category of tools, products, services, hardware, software, whatever the case may be. But I would not even initially have the conversation about even an Ecamm or a Restream or a StreamYard or the script or whatever the case would be. But let me understand. So you want to start doing podcasts? Okay. What's the niche that you have? How long do you want a podcast for? What's the audience that you're trying to reach? Right. Where the podcasts are going to be filmed and held. Are you going to be doing them in a home studio, or are you going to be doing them on site at a gymnasium, right? Whatever the case may be, right? That starts really narrowing down, and we can start putting those points together and saying, okay, you're going to do a sports podcast. You're going to be at the YMCA. You need noise canceling. You need this. You need that. So that's when you start really building that framework, as opposed to me just initially going out and say, here's a sheet of products that you should go to B&H. Oh, I'm sorry, Amazon. Huh? There you go. Caught myself.
You did. Good. It's too bad we can't live deep fake you, man.
You can edit that out. Here's a list of gear that you can go buy off of Amazon, off of my Amazon store. No, what do you want to do when you turn the lights on, press record, fire up the mic? What are you really trying to say, and what are you trying to do? That's really where we would start, as opposed to, again, talking about individual products. So, and that eliminates a lot of confusion. That actually eliminates a lot of the folks who may not be ready to even start talking about this, right? Because you put that onus back on them to say, tell me, if you're hiring me and you're asking me these questions, you have to clearly articulate what it is that you're trying to do when you enter this particular industry. Not just because you see the Dealcasters or you see the Mr. Beast, you see these people out here doing all this big stuff, and you think you can get into that and you can get the plaque on your wall as well. That's not what it's all about.
No.
Right? It's all about reaching community. It's all about telling stories. It's all about owning that digital online presence. It's all about those kinds of things, as opposed to the AdSense checks coming in on the 21st of the month. That's when they come in, 21st. Or the I'm crazy, right? You can't never let me back on the show. But the affiliate relationships, or the merch sales, or anything of that. It's not about all that. That's the ancillary stuff, right? That's the extra gravy on top of the mashed potatoes. But building the relationships, building the network, changing someone's life, possibly, right? Again, by raising above the noise and having those types of awkward but necessary conversations at times. That's really where it's at, brother.
See, I knew,
long-winded answer. Jeez,
Jim, I knew if we get him out of the host seat and into the guest seat, we're gonna get. It's like going to church nuggets right now for content creators.
Well, it reminds me too, though, Chris, and this is something that Chris has talked about, we've talked about, and you hit on it without saying it, but it's all about problem solving, right? What is the problem that you're going to solve? Once we know what that is and can kind of refine it, then we find the tools to solve the problem, as opposed to 100%. My tool is going to solve your problem. How do I know? I don't know what your problem is.
Might not. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And then again, as our role, as again, I'm talking about the three of us, and probably also a number of folks in your community, our roles as those subject matter experts, those trusted advisors, we should be out there looking and evaluating, maybe testing all of those new platforms and products that are coming out, right? We should have some type of a generalization and kind of a high level knowledge of what each of those products, software pieces, things that do, so we can have a constructive conversation with clients and with folks that are reaching out to us. You got to continue. It's again, that continuing to evolve, that continuing to have knowledge and continuing to be aware of what's out there, because if you don't, I'm not going to call you next time. I'm going to call somebody else who is on top of their stuff.
Well, and James, I think you use this, this is a good example too, a product that recently, unfortunately, had an untimely demise, Volley, right? I thought Volley was great.
Volley was so good.
It was, asynchronous video and everything else, but it was almost like they were ahead of their time.
Volley was so good. Yeah.
And, because maybe if it had started at the beginning of, what happened a few years back, because I don't even like to talk about it, it might have jumped on. But now people are like, oh, I want to be in person, right? Everybody wants to go back to the way things used to be. Well, that's not going to happen. So get over that.
Right.
But it was just, it's one of those things, right? We had to be aware of that. And then you're like, you know what? I like what this product would do. Now that it's gone, what can I find that can give me similar results and capabilities? Because I still see where it can be helpful for people.
I got 3. Want me to give you? I can tell you 3.
Yeah.
I can tell you 3 products that are pretty decent out there. One is Noodle, Noodle. One is called Pensight, Pensight, and the one that I'm using is called Beacons.ai. Beacons.ai they're actually based here in Silicon Valley, based in San Francisco, and it's that link tree on steroids. Right. Meaning, so it's not just links. It's actually, you can actually embed video. You can embed merch stores. You can embed calendaring. You can charge for services. You can charge for subscriptions. So my jameshicks.link goes to my beacons.ai site that is a catch-all for every single thing. So I've got my latest, I think 9 live streams off of YouTube there. I got links to my Amazon store, links to my merch store, all of that. So those 3 tools could kind of stepped in for Volley, which was providing, again, a mobile app for consumers to reach out to consultants and technology enthusiasts to ask for help, ask for assistance. And you can charge for it, right? You can pay for subscriptions, or you can pay on a one-on-one basis. So Noodle, Pensight, and Beacons.ai. There's others, but those are the 3 that I know.
Well, if it's coming out of the mouth of James Hicks, that's what I'm listening to. I don't need to.
Well, I know a lot of
Where's some
Amazon
sound effects, brother? Bring some sound effects, man. God.
What you want a DJ horn?
I want something. I don't know.
How about this? All right. So, no, Beacons is something a lot of other Amazon influencers have talked about using. That they're using. So you're saying that there is like there's a calendar scheduler within Beacons, or you just kind of link your own calendar within it.
So check this. So there's an app store within Beacons, and you can use different other platforms that you already have. So if you have Calendly, you can directly integrate. So there's an API between Calendly and Beacons that it'll actually show your calendar, and even if they're free sessions or if they're paid for sessions, and it will link them together. You can link other platforms in there as well. It's really cool, man. Check them out. And for the fact for entrepreneurs, folks that are making that turn from just side hustle to actual business, Beacons provides all of that business aspect as well. So tax forms, payroll, all of that integration as well for content creators that are kind of stepping into the world of actually the LLC world.
See, I knew you'd get some value at some point, James.
There
I knew
it is.
somehow we would get to some
What was
value.
it? Let me see. How long did it take? God, it took 45 minutes, and we finally. Oh, geez, I'm exhausted.
No, seriously, man. This has been tremendous already. But can we get back to my questions, because I'm selfishly bringing a free.
Are you trying to pull a Jeff C for that free consultation from your guest?
Okay, so I touched a little bit, James, about you being a studied podcast host.
Yes.
Someone that I respect, and I studied the art, and I know you studied the art. I can tell. Like, you don't just wake up James Hicks, right? You and I both know that, right?
Takes a lot of work.
It does. It takes a lot of work, and it's not easy. And I think people need to hear that this stuff, all the AI and all the tools and all this stuff, like at the end of the day, you still have to put it in. You still got to figure it out. You still got to, maybe pay and invest in someone else to do things for you. All of those things. One of the things that I think we all have to do is to continue to be lifelong learners and to learn and to have influence. And, like yourself as a podcast host, I use as an influence. I see how you sort of orchestrate the show. I mean, I was a guest on your show, and I'm going, ooh, I need to use that as a host on my show. I need to kind of figure out, like, I like the way he did that, and I like the way he did that. And as a former musician, or I guess I still am a musician, people will say, oh, that sounds like Sting, or that sounds like Flea, or that sounds like, this or that or the other. Sure, I played all of those songs. Those are all influences of mine. As a content creator, I know you have influences yourself. I'd love to hear, like, who you listen to, who do you study? Like, who are some of your influences? Maybe not just podcast hosts, but just people in general or influencers in general.
Yeah, so one piece of software that I use on a regular basis is Audible.
Yeah.
Audible is my go-to, and the only thing that I download in my library are motivational conversations, either business motivation, personal development, mental health, mental awareness, just kind of getting out of your own way, kind of things. Folks that talk about that. I really like folks who have gone through struggle, gone through struggle, experienced it, had a difficult time with it, and come out of it and are willing to share their story. Folks like the David Goggins of the world.
Yeah.
Right. You're not going to play David Goggins at the dinner table when you got kids around them.
Right.
But when you're underneath the squat rack in the gym, that's a good guy, to listen to in terms of the struggle, in terms of being literally under the bottom, not even at the bottom, but under the bottom, and then finding a way to, I use this term a lot, get out of your own way and make something of yourself and of the situation. So the Goggins of the world, from a business and from a creative perspective, someone like a Pat Flynn, right, talking about super fans, right? I mean, those kind of cats, right? Folks that, again, have seen it, done it, and are willing to share and articulate it. The Chris Does of the world.
Yes.
And in terms of how to market yourself and how to charge for your worth and have that conversation about maybe rejection from potential clients who get a sticker shock and say, well, why are you charging this much? And then you being able to really articulate the value. So that's something that really Christo really talks about. So I love that. So the Goggins, the Flynn's, the Does, and then, some of the folks that maybe even closer to us, right? I like the longevity of someone like a Luria Petrucci, right? Because I've known her since before she came out with before she called herself by her own name, right? When she was when she was on TV with Leo Laporte, right? So just the longevity again of someone who has started, been to the top, fallen down a couple of times, but again has risen to the top and is focused on making sure that the community grows, making sure that the community is not intimidated by all of this stuff, right? All these keyboards and mice and lights and all this. Don't worry about that. She's really locked in on that. That's really why I kind of resonate with her. So Luria is fantastic about that. So, I mean, those are the kinds of things that I listen to. If I had my phone around me, I would tell you what else is in my Audible playlist. But those kind of things are really what I resonate and listen to.
Yeah, I think a lot of times.
So think about that. Yeah. So not a lot of coding books. I started in MVS and COBOL, right? I was writing the COBOL scripts to help when we thought the world was going to blow up, right? Going from the two-digit year codes to the four.
That's
so
right.
I was doing that back, right? But so I don't get down with a lot of that as much anymore because that's not as tangible. I actually want to hear not just common sense, but I want to hear real world stories and real world experiences of folks, like I say, who have gone through something and are finding a way to get through it. The Gladwell, what's his name?
Malcolm Gladwell.
Dude, it sounds so simple when someone else is saying it. The stuff that he says, it just makes sense. Lights go on and everything, and you.
Yep.
Right.
It's like a lot of times I think, what we're saying, it's not like it hasn't been said before. It's just being said by us in a different way. And it's not that we're trying to copy someone, right? But it can impact someone. Malcolm Gladwell might not impact someone, but if you're using some of the same things that he's using as an influence and it influences somebody else, and maybe after we're dead, then that's why we're doing it. Right? I mean, what's funny is that James was going to talk about monetization, and we never got there. And I don't want to go there, actually. Because I consider you someone that is successful, at what you're doing. Maybe we don't have, Bentleys in the garage or anything like that, or we're not getting on private jets, right? But we consider success, a balance of family, which I know that you have, and your life being on the sidelines with Super Bowl champions and all of these things. You like how I slipped that in there?
I love that. That's really good.
And so, but we never talked about, hey, everyone, here's how you can make money, right? Now there's money to be made in these things.
Yeah.
But that's not what we talked about. We talked about how you can do this stuff to create something and live life on your terms based on implementing these whether it's AI or whether it's like the mindset that you're talking about and all of these things. We never once, James, talked about, okay, here is the special secret for you to make $1,000 a day, doing this, that, and the other. And I actually was I had planned to talk to you about, okay, so what are some key monetization? And I'm like, why would I ask you that question at this point? It just doesn't seem like right to even bring it up in this conversation.
Well, so I'll interject, and I'll be the doubting
Please.
Thomas. I'll be just
the doubting Christopher.
just wait till my sports analogies come out, right? I'm gonna bring some more in here, right?
It's a home run.
It's a justified question asked, right? Because again, you've got folks that are digital creators, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs looking to do this, right? Looking to spin up a presence online, own that digital property, sell goods and services, sell hardware and software, have affiliate relationships, have partnerships, things like that. There's nothing wrong with that.
That's right.
Right? There's nothing wrong with that. So don't be don't think that that's what we're coming at. But if you're constantly always chasing the bag, if you're only chasing the bag, if you're only looking for that next affiliate payout, if you're only waiting for those AdSense checks to come in, then you're missing the real reason for doing what it is that we do. Right? What we do is really build community, build relationships, and have engaging conversations with interesting people. That right there is kind of at the premise and is kind of that cloud nine right there. All the other stuff will come, right? All the other financial, if that's what you're looking for, will come. All the other success criteria and factors will come. And what success means is different for somebody else. Success could be 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. It could be a plaque on your wall. It could be that Bentley in your garage. It could be all of those other things. Or it could just be, I did a live stream today. 5 people showed up. One person sent me a DM on Twitter and said, you really touched me with the conversation that you had, and I'm going to go out and do something better for myself. All of those mean success.
Yes. In
some way or shape or form. So understand what it is that you're trying to do in terms of, and understand what your individual metric for success is, and go after that. Don't go after what James is doing. Don't go after what Jim or Chris is doing. Go after what it is that you want to do. And don't let anybody tell you that you can't do it.
Exactly.
Man,
and
were you a preacher in
hit
another
on
life?
Well, there it is. The doors of the church will be open and bring you tithes,
Coach James,
and offerings to the.
He's going to be working with Coach Prime. But the thing too that you hit on, and right, like even the reason behind this show for me and Chris, it's not about the monetization; it's about helping others.
Yeah.
Right. It's always been about helping others. And so I love what you just said, right? You may not have a big audience, but you reach that one person and makes a difference in their life. That's what matters. Right. That's right, what it's all about.
You reach one person, you have that conversation, and you provide a stellar service to them. You give them 110% of what they're only asking for 90. You actually end up giving them 110%. They're going to say, you know what? I had such a great working relationship with the Dealcasters, and they'll tell that to their friend. They'll tell that to another friend. They'll post that online and say, if you're looking for advice on infrastructure or whatever the case would be, check these guys out. There it is right there, right? There's that domino effect. There's that, again, I don't like the word influence. I really start itching when people say I'm more of an advocate. There's that advocacy. There's that where you're reaching into other people's lives and bringing value as opposed to just selling and telling and doing those kinds of things. You're asking and you're helping instead.
Yeah.
Come on now. God,
okay. All right. We got some friends in the chat. They've been chiming in.
I'm gonna make sure I make that a little TikTok reel or something.
Yeah. Oh, listen, we're gonna be clipping. You know how this is, man. We use all parts of the pig, dude. All parts of the pig. Cyrus Webb, thank you for joining us. Another great host who does some fantastic interviews. Cyrus, we appreciate you joining today. Of course, we saw Richard. He's been chiming in and sharing things. Our boy Strick is here. Strick, are you going to Creator Camp? DJ Strick, are you going to Creator Camp? Let us know if you're going.
He might be a camp counselor for all I know.
Okay, yeah, I figured. He probably running the thing by now.
Pretty much. Strick will make sure that I don't cause any trouble out there. TP in the
it's a big job, man.
The place and everything. He'll be looking out for me, man. Actually, I got a meeting with Strick later on this afternoon, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm a little plug. I think I'm gonna be on the stream show there.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah. That's
maybe I shouldn't
have
dropped that. I'm out here breaking news, y'all. Breaking news.
Oh, hey, this is what we like. We like that on Dealcasters. Any other news you want to break? Feel free.
I don't know if he's gonna.
Any special top secret cloud secrets you got?
What do I got? Man, I don't know. I only got 4 of the lotto numbers. I still need 2 more. So I'm not there just yet, brother.
But one thing I do, and man, this has been a great show, and I don't want to keep you too long, James, because I know you only have 17 other shows to go today. But another thing we like to ask people is, and you're someone that has touched a lot of technology in terms of, whether it's microphones or if it's interfaces, whether it's headphones, whether it's, cameras, all of the things, right? And just like AI, and the software that somebody should use, a lot of content entrepreneurs that are looking to, start or kind of move up from just their laptops. What would you suggest? Maybe not like the super expensive, whatever A6400 that you might have in front of you, or the SM7Bs of the world. We talked about how, hey, you first should be thinking about what your content is, who you're doing it for, the problems you're solving. And then, like Jim and I usually end up talking to somebody because they want to know if they're starting a podcast, like what microphone they should get, right? We don't tell them right away, hey, get the Shure SM7B. We say, what kind of room are you in? Right?
Good. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. And do it, like, how big is the room? Do you have carpeting in it? Right? Do you have like all of the things in terms of sound treatment and things like that? What's some advice and maybe some items that you would suggest for people to kind of look at? What types of maybe microphones and techniques that maybe people should be thinking about in terms of content creation?
Yeah. And what you said right there, just think about the additional questions that probably come out of that conversation, or the additional answers that come out of that question by not starting at the gold standard, by not starting at the Michael Jackson microphone, right? That's what it is, right? By not starting with the one that he recorded Thriller with, and maybe understanding a little bit more about the environment. Whole lot of other competitors out there, whole lot of other manufacturers that are fantastic out there. Look, we like what we like, but again, if you looked in my equipment closet right there, there's some other manufacturers as well. And depending on having that engaging conversation, a lot of that other information will come out. I'm a huge proponent, though, when it comes to the video piece. I'm a huge Sony guy. Listen, I lived in Japan for 4 years. I'm a Sony guy. I'm just going to say that, and that's what I'm using. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. So
we're
got
Team
the
Sony
FX30.
too.
What's is that right? Okay, I don't know. I just want to make sure I don't prejudge.
Chris only gave a good part of his adult life to Sony.
Okay, I know.
Yeah, but that was music.
I just see that
it
to
still
see his
doesn't
reaction,
matter,
right?
Chris. You know we love Sony. I think I have a Sony TV. This is actually a Sony camera that I'm using right here. Sony's.
There you go, man. Keep the stock going too, because we're investors as well. So FX30 is what I'm rocking right here, right now. That's above and beyond what a lot of folks will probably want and or need, but I've decided to stay with the APS-C as opposed to the full frame for these talking head types of videos and sessions, because it just, there's more of a variety in terms of lens options as well. So I've got the 11 millimeter lens on here right now on that FX30. My B cam is a ZVE10. So if Strick is listening, that's probably what we're going to talk about on his show. So man, but I've got that running. I've got the ZV-1F as my overhead cam. So again, all Sony cameras for different purposes. In terms of lighting, I've kind of standardized on a particular platform and a particular manufacturer as well. So everything in here is Godox in terms of the tube lights and the point lights in front of me as well. Those kinds of things. I've standardized on manufacturers because I've gone through that hard work of buying a whole lot and saying, nope, that doesn't work, and returning it or whatever the case. So I've gone through that iteration of knowing what works specifically for me. So in this room, in this 8x10 area, with this setup and these conditions, these things work best for me. So it's really a living document too, in terms of the gear that I would recommend to folks for their particular situation. But Sony, Godox, Shure, Rode, Elgato, the big names are the big names for a reason.
That's right. Again, you're preaching to Jim and I being the choir here, but it's true. Yeah. It's like the reason why there's longevity, and then you see a brand that you never even heard of that just came out of the gate. Like, you might want to let them, have 87 years of mistakes like some of these other companies have had.
Let them marinate just for a little while, right?
Yeah. And I think you bring up another great point, is the consistency within the brands for, like you mentioned, the Godox lights. And I'm in a situation where when it comes time to turn the lights on in my studio, I got 6 different types of lights that are going on. And it's like, I think the other thing is, like, if you can get one brand of lighting and you have it all synced to an app, and you have a little more control over that, and things are a little bit easier. You're not like, God, what do I do this, and what's the light? And I got, and there are different types and formats of all of those things, and you run that risk because you're chasing what other people said you should get.
Man, come on.
And you said yourself, it's like, hey, this works for me. And it doesn't matter if it's Godox, it could be Philips, it could be what's Govee. Like, there's a bunch of different brands of lighting. So it's like, find one that works for you. If it doesn't work, return it and find another one that works and stay consistent with it.
So I'm gonna take you on another little trip though, right? So you talked about Philips, and we talked about Hue as well, and those are great for practical lights. I had Philips Hue when I first really spun up the studio, but understand the purpose and the goal and the rationale for those types of lights. There's a big difference between practical, very cool lights that you can get at Target. Nothing wrong with Target. I love Target. Shouts out to them. I'll take a deal.
We don't shout them out on a show on Amazon, but that's okay.
You know what?
It's okay. We're sticking.
You need to send me the stipulations of what I can talk about.
Where's my eject button?
Man, God. So back to what I was saying. Those aren't video lights though, right? If you've got Philips Hue in your situation, and you've got those as your primary lights, there's going to be issues more than likely down the road. Maybe not day 1, maybe not even day 20, but down the road, if you're using non-video lights as primary lights within your environment, there's going to be some flicker, there's going to be some shutter offsets, things of that age. So you got to keep that in mind. So we all spend the extra couple of nickels to get video lights within our environment, such that regardless of what the frame rate is that we have on our cameras, they're not flickering, because they're made to be on video for these particular types of situations. So again, that's the conversation that we would have with the potential client and with someone who wants to spin up their own studio. What's your environment look like? What would you like to use practical lighting for? Over to my side right here, I still have some Hue lights, but they're not as visible. They're just providing kind of an overcast of the blue. And I am anal. Every single one of these blue lights in this studio matches that hex code that we were talking about.
Hex code program.
20557B. Listen, come on now. I'm that guy that knows my hex code off the top of his head. Something's wrong with me.
I got that hex code over here on my screen because I had to be a guest on your show.
I've got the eyedropper in my browser. Let me see if I get that when I click on your
grab it the right way. But it should be all 20557B. I'm like Tom Buck, right? And this is not Tom Buck blue. This is my blue.
This is James Hicks blue. So everyone hit Hicks New Media. Follow James Hicks on all of the tubes. You're everywhere, dude. You're on TikTok. You're like, that was another question I was gonna like. How do you manage your social media? You talked about one of the challenges you have is the micro stuff and getting that sort of managed. But I do see a good bit of you on social media. Is that something that you're intentional about? Do you use software in order to manage that process? How do you treat your social media as it relates to your business?
Yeah, so really good question. And that's still evolving. But where that workflow sits for me today is live stream that's a long form piece of content. I will pull that into Opus Pro. I will let Opus Pro chop that up. I will also use a iOS app called Captions, and Captions will actually do a lot of the reframing, a lot of the captions, a lot of the cleanup of audio and things of that nature, and chop it up into 9:16 or 1:1 for all the different types of platforms. Save that to my phone and then start pushing that out individually to where my audience is. So Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, TikTok is just for entertainment. I'm not as locked in and focused on TikTok as I am IG and Facebook for sharing the micro content. But those platforms are the ones that I'm using. Opus Pro, Captions. I use CrossClip as well. If Opus Pro is ever server bound, because so many people are finding it and taking advantage of it and using it, so there are some limitations in terms of just access. I don't have any patience, so I'll use a platform that's part of Streamlabs called CrossClip, and it'll do essentially the exact same thing, right? The reframing and the moving around of the cameras and the content, things of that nature. It'll save it down to my phone, and then when I'm ready to, I will fire up the YouTube app, save it as a short, schedule it out from that perspective, or just put it out there on the IG page or Facebook page. Yeah, had to think about that.
It's a much more tactical approach I'm seeing, is like, because I think a lot of people take a scattershot approach to their social media. They're taking one piece of content and they're putting it on 8 different platforms. It's the same content, right? No. And you're saying, you know what, this is for entertainment, so this piece of content only works for this platform, so this is where I'm putting it. And it's a much more intentional way. And it may take a little bit of extra thinking, right? But I think the benefits are like, hey, if I follow James Hicks on Instagram, I'm not going to get something that wasn't intended for Instagram. Exactly. This feels
so
like
you think about that. You made the reference to me hanging out with those NFL players, right? What you probably saw if you follow me on TikTok was a little bit different than what you saw in the IG reel. The music was different. The transitions was a little bit different. And again, I was intentional about what went there. I didn't just copy and paste the IG reel and put that on TikTok to where you had that watermark. So the process is the process is the process is the process. And if you're not ready to deal with a lot of those moving parts, sometimes maybe this game in for you. Right. But you got to put in that work if you really want to, again, I'll say it again, rise above the noise, because there's so many people that are out there. Yeah, they look like they're successful and they're out there killing the game and they got a ton of content out there, big audiences, big whatever, but all their stuff looks exactly the same. There's no identity to them. So be intentional about what you put out. If you're putting something out there that's a Facebook story or a Facebook reel, make it for Facebook. If you're putting something that's out there that's for Instagram, frame it the right way, use some trending music, do all those things and be intentional about it. It's going to take you a little bit of time to get through it, but you will learn your workflow and you will actually be more respected by us within the community as well, because we see all the stuff, right? Fuse and Stone over there, they know when someone's listen, they got that eye, right? We can tell when someone's kind of gone the easy route as opposed to actually knowing what it is in the world they're doing. And it's more respectful for you to know the process, respect the process, go through the process, because then you can actually share that information with somebody else. That's where you gain that advocacy. God, dog. Man, come on. You don't have no music? Golly. Hold on.
Damn, son.
Come on, man. I'm sorry.
Well, we don't want to get any copyright strikes for music. But I love what you're saying there too, because even like yesterday, I did a YouTube video.
Yeah.
Right. But I took that video, the native video, and I uploaded it to LinkedIn instead of just, I'm going to share the YouTube link and put it in the post, because you're going to get different results. And Chris and I have gotten frustrated, and the A people may hear this. They have this new thing, Inspire, but you got people doing exactly what you said. They're taking that TikTok with all the TikTok watermarks and they're uploading it to Amazon. And it's just like, it's garbage, right? Make your content for the platform.
There you go.
You're not fooling anybody. It's like, oh, they just, or the people that, even when you're sharing stuff from Instagram to Facebook, you've got to remember that the tags are different. And that used to drive me crazy when I was a social media manager, when I'd see these people like sharing their Instagrams to Facebook. It's like, nobody's seeing it because you didn't tag it right. You got to go in and edit all the tags. So you could either do that or just re-upload it and do it clean. But, let me save some time. And then
there's a difference between
engagement.
And when you're fishing, there's a difference between just grabbing a pole and running to a body of water and throwing in a worm on the end of your thing versus going out on a boat with a radar and making sure it's a certain time of day. And when and you've researched and you're studied, and somebody's going to come home with fish and somebody else is just lucky if they do. Right. And so,
this man is making it plain, folks. Right. There you go.
Like I said, I speak to myself like a 9-year-old. So that's how that works. No, but you talked about respect for the game, James. We have respect for you, my friend. We seriously do. You brought a ton of value to the show, more than I think any other guest that we've had, and I mean that. And I really appreciate the time you've taken and the amount of value you brought to our audience, my friend. So everyone, thank you for joining. Everyone, Richard, Scott, Strick, Cyrus, Denise, everyone here in the chat. I know we didn't get to everyone, but there's just, we have a preacher in our midst, the content, pastor of content creation and chief technologist of Hicks New Media. James, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Thank you, brother. Y'all be good. I really appreciate this. This is awesome.
All right. All right, everybody. Don't fear the gear.